Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Maine Take. My name is Dana Connors, and I'm pleased to be your host on behalf of the Maine State Chamber of Commerce, where twice a month we bring to you a program devoted to trying to bring you up to date on issues or initiatives or the people behind those issues and initiatives. And I guess you could say that pretty much characterizes the program for today. We have Steve Levesque, who's had a very distinguished career in economic development, who will be retiring at least from his current job at the end of this year. That will be followed by Nate Wilds of Live and Work in Maine. And Nate has a responsibility of promoting Maine's opportunity for people to come to us to meet some of our challenges, the workforce challenge, that is. And we also have Peter Van Allen. Peter is with us once again, as he is every week. This time he's going to be talking about one of the major challenges that the pandemic has brought to us, along with the workforce, is that supply chain issue. So let's begin today's program with Steve. Steve Levesque is currently the Executive Director of the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority. He has been there actually since your inception of 2008 when it was created. But even before that, you were the lead person in terms of when the base was shut down, and you were in charge of, I think it was called the Brunswick Redevelopment Authority, to create a master plan that would lead us to where we are today. And who would have thought then that we would have what we're experiencing today? But that's part of the interview. So Steve, I understand you're retiring at the end of this year, and congratulations. Boy, you've had a wonderful run at this current job. Yeah. So I want to welcome you today, but before we delve into that question, I want to go back because I want people to understand your role in economic development. I think I met you for the first time when you were the economic director for the city of Lewiston, and you became commissioner of Department of Economic and Community Development, but there's a lot in between. So take us down that journey, reminisce a bit about your economic development experience, which have been pretty extensive.
Well, thank you, Dana, and it's great to join you all here. So I grew up in Auburn, and I out of high school I joined the Marine Corps and ended up in finishing and going to school in California, where I worked for a couple of economic and community development firms. And like many, I'm boomerang. I moved back to Maine in the late 80s. I had a consulting business, and I actually commuted for a year between Maine and Southern California, working on projects on both coasts. And then I decided that I really loved Maine more than California, so I moved back here full time. And initially I was doing consulting work. I worked for the city of Portland for a while as a senior planner. Then I went to the Land Use Regulation Commission, Maine Land Use Regulation Commission, as a chief planner, where I worked on a lot of the major projects around the state at that time. And then I went to the city of Lewiston, where I was development director. And then Tom McBrady called me one day after he had a listening session. It was kind of a funny story, a listening session around the state. And I got into a discussion, an argument with a manufacturer about the need to diversify Maine's economy versus just focus on manufacturing. And Tom called me and offered me a position as a director of business development. And then Tom left to go to run Talk America, and Governor King asked me to be commissioner. So I was commissioner for about 6 years. And while he was there, and then after that, I went back to consulting for a few years, and the position here opened up. I was contacted by a headhunter, asked me if I'd be interested in running the redevelopment effort and the planning effort. I originally wanted to do it through my consulting practice, but they said no, that wasn't going to work. So that I've been here. I've been here since 2006. As you said, initially, working as essentially a planning board for the federal government, which is the Brunswick Local Redevelopment Authority. that did the reuse master plan that really identified what the land use characteristics were going to be for the former base, which actually ended with, well, it was announced in 2005, it didn't close till 2011, which is just 10 years ago. So after we did the plan, it was adopted by the community. It was a really nice, good planning process. The state had formed the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority, which is a quasi-state agency. Its sister agency is the Loring Development Authority.
Oh, yes.
Does the same function. So I've been managing the implementation of the reuse plan since 2008, as you said. It's been a great experience.
Oh, and it's a great story. So let's talk about that story, because when I read the list of accomplishments that have taken place, whether it's the number of businesses, whether it's Innovation Center, the tech place, whatever the measurement may be, you've exceeded expectations. But in your words, why don't you share with those who are viewing the program today what some of those successes have been or are?
Well, I mean, it's to begin with, when we did the plan, we had all these visioning sessions with the general community, the people who worked here on the former base. We also held the same visioning sessions for the area high school students. So we brought the kids in from Morse High School and Mount Ararat and Brunswick and brought them through the same visioning process. We were a little apprehensive of what that would look like. We thought that we'd see arcades and skateboard parks and all those types of things, but those kids blew us away. It was all about the future economy. It was all about innovation. It was all about good paying jobs for Maine that would allow them to work and live here. And it really served as the basis of what we created, which was really an innovation center, and we actually then, after we did the plan, which really focusing on target sectors, aerospace, life sciences, IT, clean tech, and education, we went back to those kids after the plan was adopted to name this place. And these kids came up with Brunswick Landing Maine Center for Innovation. So we spent the last 12 years trying to deliver on that promise we made to those young kids, a number of whom actually work here on campus. Or live in the community now that they've gone away and they've come back. So that's what we drive for every day. Right now we have 150 businesses that are here. 10 years ago, we had 0. We had empty buildings. We have over 2,500 people that work here, and many of those are in the target sectors. And the cool thing is, Dana, and I know you were, a big supporter and initiator of Maine and Company, but 70% of our companies here at Brunswick Landing never existed in Maine before.
Oh, fascinating.
So it's really exciting to be part of this.
Yeah, and the more you examine the various aspects of what has taken place, the more impressive it is, and the more encouraging it is, because we know how innovation plays such a central part in a growth of our economy going forward. It's all around us, but you have a center of it right there at Brunswick Landing. That's a great story, Steve. Let me ask you this. Of all of your experiences, and I'd forgotten, frankly, but you have I think a master's degree in environmental, maybe it's science or some aspect of the environmental area. And that has weighed pretty heavily in what we know here in Maine, that you've got to balance the environment with the economy. You don't have one at the loss of the other if you really want to move Maine forward. Has that played significantly in a number of the decisions that you've had to make over the years as economic development professional?
Well, it certainly has. I mean, my degree, my master's degree in environmental studies is also a concentration in urban and regional planning. So, you know, merging obviously development with environmental management have been real critical. And it has been a central tenet to what we've been doing on Brunswick Landing from the very beginning. So, you know, start with, we have a couple of different layers. We have certainly some natural resources that we want to manage and maintain. We have bird species and habitats that are critical that we're working with the state and the federal government to manage. One of our chief tenets is clean tech. So our whole development here is smart growth oriented, but also use of renewable energy was a big import to the reuse plan. So 100% of our power at Brunswick Landing is green. So we have a solar farm on our campus. We also have an anaerobic digester. And what we don't have, where we don't meet 100% of our needs on campus, we import the rest. And we just received we are now a regulated public utility for electricity here on campus.
Yeah.
And our goal is to generate 100% of our power on campus from renewable sources. So that's a marketing advantage. And I know Nate's coming on. Nate, as you know, is involved with a local business here, Flight Deck Brewery, and they are like the only 100% green brewery in Maine, and maybe other places he can talk about. But so that's a central tenet of sustainability, of smart growth, of good environmental management. And that actually attracts businesses to our place. People are excited to be part of that. We're a EPA green partner, and companies can put that on their collateral materials.
Oh, that's great. Before I wrap this segment up, I wanted to ask you about what's next. I know that you have an incredible place in that incredible community called Greenville. You have a home there.
Yeah.
And that I just know that economic development has been so much part of your past. I know it's going to be a part of your future as well. It's in your blood. You're not going to be able to get away from it. So do you have any plans beyond December?
Well, Dana, I don't have any direct plans other than I want to stay engaged. You inspire me of what you've been able to do. I followed your career, and you've always been that, inspiration for me personally. So I want to thank you for being a leader from that perspective. I don't look at this as a retirement. I've coined a new phrase. I'm calling it repositioning.
Very good.
But I really, I've dedicated the last 30 years to helping Maine's economy. I'm particularly passionate about rural communities and helping them be sustainable and successful. Communities like Greenville and other communities around the state, I want to continue to do what I can to help the state of Maine. So I'll be around. I'm not going anywhere. And I look forward to exciting things happening in the future.
Well, Steve, based upon your reputation, your experience, and your history, that you won't lack for people reaching out to you to help, because you have established an incredible reputation as somebody who can be trusted, who knows exceedingly well what the economy of Maine is all about and how to make it work. And you've just demonstrated that here today. So congratulations. Thank you so much. And you'll always be a friend. Take care.
Thanks, Dana.
Now let's talk with Nate Wiles of Live and Work in Maine. Live and Work in Maine was established on or about 2016 when they hit the ground running. It was initially to really, and still is, to promote Maine's employment brand. But we also know that they play an incredibly important role in helping us meet the workforce challenge that is so much a part of our economy today. Is how do we wrestle with that issue? And Live and Work in Maine has done a wonderful job of addressing that, getting us started, bringing young people to the state of Maine. And so it's a pleasure to have Nate with us today. Nate is right out of central casting when it comes to this type of job, because you're about to hear his enthusiasm. You won't hear his energy, but you'll feel it. And there's no question that that goes a long ways in encouraging people to come to our state and having them believe that what we have is very special. So Nate, welcome. Glad you're on the show.
Well, that was great. Thanks for having me, Dana. Appreciate it. We'll see you later.
Oh, okay. No, I want you to hear about that
Very
green
kind.
beer, first of all, because isn't that what he said? You have green beer there, or?
Yeah,
No.
with quotes around green, yes.
No, serious for a moment. You guys are doing a fantastic job. You and Katie have really blown the doors off in terms of making people aware of what we have in the state of Maine. So let's begin. It's hard for me to imagine that people don't know what live and work in Maine is all about. But for those who do know, I bet they don't know all that you do and the different aspects of how you go about attracting people, creating interest and awareness in our state. So let's begin there.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that. So first off, I get to work with some awesome people. So you mentioned Katie. So Katie Shorey is our director of engagement. She's also volunteer president of Startup Maine, which some people know her through that avenue as well. And we actually just welcomed the third member of our team, of our internal team, Ashley Aslan. And Ashley joins us as content manager, working on something we'll talk about a little bit here. But one of the challenges and opportunities we've got is that there is so much good stuff going on in Maine. We needed more capacity internally to help distill that and to tell the story out. And so the premise of our work is based on the fact that we believe, as people that have, all three of us that live and work in Maine, but frankly, the employers that we work with and the people that we engage with are all in the same boat, that Maine is a great place. We're not trying to change the state. The reason we exist is that Maine is a great place to live and work. There are certainly opportunities for improvement, but the challenge we've had historically is telling the story of why we are great and showing people both here in Maine why they should stay, but also people elsewhere why they should want to come. And so we have long called ourselves a startup, or a sort of skunkworks division of a nonprofit that our job changes on a monthly basis, if not a weekly basis, depending on what the employer industry in Maine, the employer entities in Maine need in order to continue hiring people. And so we are employer driven from the very beginning. The premise of our work is that in order to be in Maine, folks need to work. And so while remote work is a new opportunity and the employer may not be based in Maine, we are still employer focused, which is to say we don't create jobs. So we don't hire anyone. We're not a placement agency. We don't do recruiting. We promote and help connect people with opportunities to either live here, work here, or both. And so our work looks like events. So we can talk about some events we've got started this month. We're launching a number of big welcome home events to celebrate all the folks that have moved here recently. We've got online marketing. So we've got a massive campaign that's in the middle of launching right now called the State of Innovation, which we're working with everybody from healthcare providers to state government on promoting the state as a great place to do work and to create innovation. And we do a lot of other culture work, frankly, internally, which is, you referenced enthusiasm. You know, we're optimists through and through at Live and Work in Maine, both by personality and by the nature of our work, which is we're the drum beaters to show the world what a great place Maine is. And so that work takes a lot of different shapes. Sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's tactical marketing, sometimes it's one-on-one, work with individuals and influencers who can help to change the culture in high schools or help to change the culture at higher education in Maine. To show young people that Maine is not just a place they should consider, but really one of the best choices for them to launch their career. And so all that to be said, our job is not to pull the wool over people's eyes. It's really just to get people excited about what we really have to offer in Maine and to help folks who see themselves here to come. And for folks who, are not enthused by what Maine has to offer, we are a very distinct place. And if Maine is not the right place for you, we're not going to try to convince you to come here. We're trying to celebrate what we have to offer and make sure that employers and communities have the opportunity to put their best foot forward.
Yeah, you mentioned a number of programs that you've initiated over the times, like the one I particularly like saying, which is Imagine Me, Maine, and You. The old song that comes to mind every time I hear that is a great program. The Boomerang, but you've got one starting Thursday that you're taking around the state called Welcome Home. Why don't you talk about that for a moment? I think it's a real intriguing concept with pretty decent attendance. I'm told.
So far, yeah, the RSVP lists have been we've had to raise our attendance cap for all the events. So the premise of the Welcome Home events is actually an evolution of our Boomerang campaign. So folks might recall over the last few years, we've launched a Boomerang campaign every November to celebrate and to welcome back all those folks who started in Maine or have some sort of connection to Maine, either lived here, maybe they visited their grandmother here, maybe they came to summer camp here, right? Some sort of heartstring connection to the state, and decided to come back to Maine to live and work at a later time. I'm a Boomerang. I grew up here. I left right out of college because I thought that was what I was supposed to do to get a good job. As soon as I got to the Midwest, I realized that actually Maine was pretty good. And I came running back as a Boomerang as quickly as I could. And so folks, we celebrated them in November, in large part because we know that a lot of folks come, quote unquote, home for the holidays around Thanksgiving. And so we were leveraging the fact that a lot of folks consider Maine home, even though they don't live and work here. And so we wanted to welcome them back for the week on Thanksgiving week and celebrate the fact and show them that Maine is actually a great place to move should you be prepared to do so. So two things happened since we started that effort. The first is there was a recognition, and we learned a lot about what demographics exist within the Boomerang population. And it's hindsight's 2020, but when you think about what a Boomerang is what Maine was, which is to say Maine is a very white state, and Maine is a very old state, demographically speaking. And so if we're welcoming people who started here back to Maine, odds are they're at least white. And so to support a greater diverse population, a more diverse economy in every sense of that word, we have to think outside of traditional talent pools. And the traditional talent pool of Boomerangs is going to largely, statistically, most likely to bring back more white people. And so to reach other demographics and to reach other populations and cultures, we've got to think differently about the marketing at work that we're doing. And so one way we're thinking differently is by leveraging, frankly, what we're still learning about what happened over the last 18 months, right? As soon as COVID hit, Maine went from this, our work went from trying to get people to pay attention to Maine about how great we are here to overnight the world realizing that, oh yeah, Maine is a pretty good place to live and work. They've got clean air. Wildfires were not an issue here, but they're an issue a lot of places around the country. Climate change is affecting everyone, but certainly Maine is better situated than many places in the world to handle those changes. We've got clean air, clean water, and as some people have been saying, we've been socially distancing since 1820 when the state was founded. So we have all those things that are naturally part of our culture, and so it felt and it was a very safe place to be through 2020 and 2021. And so a lot of people chose to move here. And the eternal question is how many people moved here? There are a lot of data challenges, frankly, with pooling those numbers together. We have some good indicators. We're working right now with employers to get some better numbers, but we know anecdotally, and frankly, everybody in Maine knows that folks moved here, right? There are not many homes available for sale, and we all have new neighbors at some point in time. And so the Welcome Home events are simply there to welcome and to start to identify and encourage those who have moved here recently to get connected with their communities, to meet their neighbors. And now that we are becoming capable of more safe in-person events, thanks to high vaccination rates and others, we are able to shake the hands and enjoy a beverage with the folks who have moved here recently. So the Welcome Home events, we've got 5 across the state. This is our inaugural year. So we focused on the 5 largest metropolitan areas from Presque Isle, Lewiston, Auburn, Brunswick, Portland, and Bangor. And so those events are kicking off this year. We've got 5 from November 2nd to December 2nd. If you'd like to come, all we're asking is an RSVP to tell us beforehand, liveandworkinmaine.com/welcome home. And folks can sign up and send it to people who they know have moved here. The idea is very simple. We just want to connect with people who want to celebrate the fact that you've come to Maine. And we want to make sure that you feel enabled to get connected in the community in which you live. And so we've started with 5 events. The short-term goal is to frankly celebrate people who've moved here recently. That's the very short-term goal, very simple. The longer-term goal is to start to build an institutionalized, repeated function for this, right? So a Welcome Home event shouldn't be a big deal to organize every single year. It really just should be part of our culture, we feel. And so we're working with community partners, and in each one of these locations, we're co-hosting with a local organization. Some places it's the chamber, some places it's the downtown association, and others. So the goal is to help build this capacity in each community so that each community can do their own version of it. The great thing about Maine is that we're one state. Every community is distinct. And so we want the opportunity for each community to have their own version of what a Welcome Home event might be, whether it's location-based, the kind of food and beverage you've got serving there, and the kinds of people that are present in the room. It's all going to be different for each community. So our goal is simply to help seed these around the state and have the opportunity to tell the story and help to promote the fact that when you move to Maine, we're ready to welcome you, and we can't wait to see you here.
Nate, why don't you take a moment and just repeat how people, if they want to have more information about any of those 5 locations and the time, the date, and so forth, how would they go about getting that information? You want to repeat that?
You can go direct to our website, liveandworkinmaine.com/welcome home. You can also go to any of our social media channels. We're on Instagram at LiveWorkMaine. We're on Facebook, Live and Work in Maine. We're on LinkedIn as well as Live and Work in Maine. So head to any of those channels, head to our direct to our website. Again, the only requirement is that you RSVP. And from a COVID perspective, certain venues do have certain requirements about masking and whatever. So head to our website, RSVP. We've got all the information there. The good news is expected attendance. So we anticipated our goal was to have 30 to 50 people per event. We have close to 200 people signed up for the first event this Thursday. We've already exceeded 75 people for the following event. And those are just the first 2. So we're really excited to have a population of people together in a safe place, distanced appropriately, and all that good stuff. We're just so excited that there's so many people that want to be connected to their community, and so we can't wait to both have these events. But frankly, we're also going to be there to help capture some of these stories, and that's what I'm most excited for personally. Frankly, is not just to welcome these people, but to hear about why they chose Maine and hear about what their experience was coming here. We've got a great opportunity to connect a much more diverse population than Maine is growing ourselves naturally, historically, both in terms of race, ethnicity, culture, professional background, you name it. We've got a great opportunity. The silver lining of COVID is that a lot of people chose to move here. And so we've got a once in a lifetime, knock on wood, once in a lifetime opportunity to welcome these people, retain them here in Maine, and not just keep them here, but keep them here happy and get them engaged and help them to be a part of our future.
Well, and we are very excited that Live and Work in Maine is here in the state of Maine, meeting what we consider to be a major challenge for our state, whether it's workforce related or whether it's the basic demographic challenge that we know the state faces. So great work. You are a very difficult interview. It's hard to come up with questions that you can fill the time with. So, but I mean that sincerely. It's a compliment. You guys are doing such great work, and appreciate the opportunity to share it with people who may be watching the show today. So keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you for your work, and the Chamber has been a phenomenal partner since the beginning. And what I didn't say is that our work is possible because of partnerships. We don't come in with the best ideas. We come in with the best partners, and the State Chamber has certainly been there from the beginning. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Nate. Appreciate it. Now let's talk about another issue that really has challenged this state and this country and probably the world, and that is the supply chain issue. And here to talk to us about that, because he's written a recent story, is our friend Peter Van Allen. Peter is with us again this week from Mainebiz. And Peter, I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about the challenge facing us, as well as so many other businesses, regardless of what you do, where you live, or what your activity may be.
Thanks, Dana. Appreciate you inviting me on here today. So we tackled that in our most recent issue of Mainebiz. We wanted to tackle this supply chain. It's something we hear about all the time. So we went into this, we knew that there were production issues, that factories had shut down during COVID and that sort of thing. We had heard stories about container ships being held up in port because a crew member had a positive test for COVID, and that, but what we really wanted to find out was, how is this affecting Maine businesses? And so I did this story myself. And so I reached out to about a dozen companies, and I got some very interesting responses from a range of companies, from Coffee by Design, from Go Lab in Belfast, Front Street Shipyard in Belfast, Bixby and Company in Rockland, VIP Auto, Gifford's Ice Cream, Tiny Homes of Maine. And the interesting thing, so first of all, it was such an odd assortment, Dana, of products that were in short supply. For example, Mary Ellen Lindeman at Coffee by Design said they were having trouble finding this certain type of coffee maker, but even worse, that a lot of their beans, they import a lot of beans from other countries. A lot of their beans were held up in various ports. JB Turner, who runs Front Yard Shipyard, big shipyard in Belfast, was having trouble getting things like antifreeze and engine parts and, just air conditioning supplies, when they outfit these big, it's commercial vessels, but also big yachts. They're just having a lot of problems just with smaller parts. Kate McAleer, who owns Bixby, they do these the chocolate bars that you see on the counters in grocery stores. She was saying that some of their products use freeze-dried raspberries, and they were having trouble getting these because and this is where things got sort of complicated in the supply chain. The raspberry issues, most of the raspberries come from the West Coast. They had drought issues, they had fire issues, so it completely devastated this season's crop of raspberries, and it kind of shut down this whole line of products that Kate is producing with these Bixby bars. So just a real range of things. We also saw a lot of people are paying a lot more money for products. If you're in anything related to the construction industry, like Go Lab in Belfast, or which designs and builds energy efficient homes. If you're building tiny homes in Maine, like Corinne Watson in Holton, construction materials have gone up as much as 40%. So it's a lot of things in the supply chain are creating issues.
What's on the horizon, did you find out, either from the federal level or any other place perhaps, that helps us cope with this?
I think that's a great question, but I think really what I found with the people that I interviewed was they're just going back to kind of old-fashioned sourcing and developing new relationships and making sure that if this supplier doesn't have what they need, making sure they have a relationship with other suppliers who might be able to, might have other networks. So, I don't think anybody's waiting for any help on this. They're just, they're taking matters into their own hands and trying to, develop different sources. And, what does so much of business come back to? It's relationships, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the story of Maine, isn't it? The Maine way. They're not going to wait because it appears that this issue, there's many reasons why it's existing, whether it's the ports being crowded, whether it's the distribution from the ports to some of the locations. There's no one singular cause that brings this issue on. So the fact that our businesses are finding ways to go back to the future by those relationships and those things is kind of a fascinating story of Maine people coping with an issue that really is worldwide. And when you think about it, yeah. It's a global. Is there any? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pete.
Well, to your point, it's a global issue, but it's one where we really wanted to just find out. So how does it affect just give you the simplest example, like Gifford's ice cream. They were having, like, for their kind of milkshakes and stuff, they had trouble just finding the lids that would go on these cups. So they had to come up with a way to, kind of get around that. And they ended up kind of putting more products at the top.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So, it's a global issue, but one where the local companies have really had to kind of find ways around it.
Yeah. And everything I tend to read says that it's going to take a while for this to rebound too. If there is this new normal, that it's going to be not a quick fix. It's going to be at least into next year, if not, sometimes predictions are even longer.
Yeah, and I think one of the startling things, I read a story in the New York Times this morning. The issues that are facing the auto industry with every car has, X number of microchips in it, and the shortage of microchips has slowed down the auto industry and production of automobiles and trucks. And that's something that can have a very big impact, not just on us as consumers who are buying cars, but on the labor. You're going to have plants that are having to shut down production or slow down production, which is going to have a big ripple effect on the economy.
Oh. Well, Peter, thanks for bringing that to our attention. That's, like I said, it's an extremely challenging issue that faces our state, along with the workforce. Those two probably the ones most paramount when you think about trying to overcome to get back to a new normal, I guess is what we call it now. But your information is very timely, very helpful, and I can't thank you enough as usual. So I appreciate that so very
David,
much.
thanks so much. Always,
Yep.
always a pleasure. Anytime.
We'll
Thank you.
see you in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, let's reflect for a moment on this week's program. I mean, we began by looking at the career of a very special economic development professional, one who balances the environment with the economy. And certainly that speaks well of his professional intent as well as his experience. But after the end of December of this year, he'll be leaving his current position. He calls it reconditioning or repositioning, I think is what he said. And that's probably true because Steve will forever have a role in economic development. His career has pointed that out. He has served with distinction, whether it's the development director in Lewiston, the commissioner of the Department of Economic and Community Development, and clearly in his position at this time as executive director of the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority, where you heard him describe the many successes that they've enjoyed in this reasonably short period of time from 2008 to our current day. What did he say? 2,500 jobs, 150 businesses, payroll that exceeded what was there when the base was there. Now, the redevelopment effort has been an incredible innovation type of effort that puts Maine on the map, and one to be appreciated. And certainly from my point of view, to congratulate Steve Levesque on an incredible run. And like I said, that's not the end of his activities in economic development. We can expect to see more in that regard. And certainly what an encouraging story that we heard from Nate Wilds when he spoke of the activities around Live and Work in Maine. That was created to really promote Maine's employment brand, but also to address the workforce challenges that we had before the pandemic, made worse by the pandemic. But clearly the pandemic has brought to light that not only was it a challenge, or it has been a challenge, it also was an opportunity. People have seen in Maine what we all see in Maine, and that's a wonderful place to live with great opportunities. And they are bringing that story to life. It's through the various programs that they have. He mentioned the boomerang. I mentioned Imagine Me and You, because it reminded me of an old song, but another successful effort. But the one that's being put together for starting Thursday of this week and in 5 different communities throughout the state is an incredible success story because of just the number of people who are attending. Again, it came about at the right time for the perfect reason to address an issue that was essential. And my hat's off to Nate and his entire team and all that work with him, all the partners that he referenced to get the job done. Thanks, Nate, and thank your team. And Peter, I thank you as well for bringing to our attention an incredible challenge that this country, this globe, this state addresses, regardless of where you live or what you do. The supply chain is so critical to the success. But as you so well pointed out, Mainers once again didn't just sit around waiting for the federal government or somebody else to do the job. They stepped up, they stepped into the arena, and they're doing everything possible to meet the need. I would say that that is the takeaway for this week. When all 3 are convincing examples of Maine people, when they face a challenge, they step up to address that challenge. They show once again that Mainers are resilient, they adapt, they adjust, but most of all, they take action. Maine doesn't wait. That's the takeaway for this week. It's a pleasure to have had our guests with us today. to have our viewers with us, as well as thanks goes to our sponsors. And to you, remember this, when you, in the world where you can be anything, be kind to yourself, be kind to one another. Thank you. We'll see you here in 2 weeks. And today, don't forget, you need to vote. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in just 2 weeks. Bye-bye.